now we get into a section of what is called by Tarbell impromptu magic. Now, honestly, I have no idea what Dr. Harlan Tarbell was thinking when he named this particular lesson, but very few of these effects are actually impromptu. So it's sort of a misnomer that he's called them impromptu tricks. My definition of an impromptu trick is that you could borrow absolutely all of the objects and nothing's gimmicked whatsoever, and you don't have to have anything prepared with you. So unless you can borrow a couple of nickeled rings and a long piece of string and a few other odd objects, these aren't strictly impromptu. Regardless of what they're called, let's just get into them. We'll start out with the first one, which is the penetrative ring. And basically for that, you are going to need a nickeled ring. Now, this particular ring that I found is just about the perfect size. It should fit very smoothly over your fingers so that you can just drop it right off. It's very thin, you know, not like a regular finger ring, which might have a slightly wider band to it. And like a finger ring, you know, it doesn't stick on there. So it should be a pretty large size like this. Now, it shouldn't be too big. So you're looking for something that's got, about an inch of diameter on the inside. It's about perfect, right? Well, where are you going to find these? Okay, you go into a craft store and you go into the Make Your Own Purse section. I mean, I'm not sure that they have a title for the section, but you will find different things that you can make a purse with. Like the strap of the purse goes over, it hooks into these two things, the purse itself now dangles from these two things. There'll be lots of different styles. Some of them are called D rings because they'll have a flat side and then a round side, looks like a letter D. But you'll also find these standard rings. And they come in a package of 2, and eventually you're going to need 2 of them. For this trick, only 1. You'll also need a rubber band. Now the rubber band is placed on your fingers like this. You give it a twist, and then another twist, and then in the same direction, you give it at least 1 more twist. I find 2 twists to be better than 1 twist. So it's twisted on all of your fingers like this. Now, the reason you did those last twists in the same direction is because you're going to be secretly removing your middle finger from its loop. So when you take it out, it'll now just be a twisted strand of band that you can push your finger against, and it will look like it's still trapped in the rubber band. If you were to give it a twist and a back twist, when you take it out, those strands would now separate, and it's not quite as convincing an illusion. That's why I give it the last twist, and in the same direction, 2 more twists. That helps create this illusion when that is removed. Now, before you remove your finger, you show it very clearly. Then you call attention to the ring, and as everybody's looking at the ring, you pull your middle finger out, push it back up against the band, and bring your fingers together like this. It now looks like your fingers are still in the rubber band, and you can show it briefly. You can also turn your hand over, but you have to practice this pretty well because you can move your finger like that as you turn your hand over, but you have to do it pretty quickly. So that shows both sides and it's twisted inside. I wouldn't do that really like calling attention to it. I would just do it kind of as I call attention to the ring and show that it can't get through the rubber band, right? And then you place it on your finger like this, and all you're going to do is pull it, and it goes right under the strand and down to the base of your finger. So as soon as you do that, you show it can't go through, you pull it. I always like to push my fingers together as much as possible. Now I'm going to turn my hand over, and I'm going to move my finger at the same time, so the ring has to stay on my finger. I turn it over, and I show the other side, like that. Okay, so here's the ring. It's gone through, and now you can see it's trapped by the rubber band. You'll also notice the shaking of my hand is not due to nervousness. No, it's to keep people from seeing that my finger is not actually twisted in the rubber band. It looks like I'm trying to show the ring by shaking it like that, but I'm secretly making it impossible for them to tell that my finger is out. Now I'm going to ask somebody to hold their hands out, and I just tilt my hand down, and just by releasing a little pressure, by moving my middle finger back, the ring slides off, and I show once again that it's there, and then just pull this right off. Now, do I think this is a great trick? Well, no, honestly. I think this is a great introduction to a series of tricks using either rubber bands or a ring, or maybe a combination of both of them. It's fun, it's interesting, it's a little bit of a puzzle, it's a quickie, but if you try it, you might find that it would work really well in one of your routines. Look, I'm going to take this red rubber band and wrap it around my top 2 fingers like this. And I discovered that if I snap that red rubber band, it hurts. Don't worry, it got better. I also learned that if I snap it just right, it goes through those 2 fingers, it lands on the bottom 2. It actually penetrates right through the 2 fingers. It also goes in the opposite direction, back up to the other 2 fingers just as easily. And some people think it goes around the ends of my fingers, so I'm going to block all possible passage by wrapping this yellow rubber band around the tips of my fingers, blocking all possible passage of the red rubber band, and that's a lot of alliteration. And yet, the red rubber band, and now you're watching now, the red rubber band goes right through and lands on, I know, it's weird, isn't it? That's where it all started. Yeah, that's the rubber band trick, I know. Oh, thanks. So now we get to something that I am intimately familiar with and passionate about, and that is the jumping rubber band. Well, why would I be so excited about the jumping rubber band? It's because it's the very first trick that I ever learned when I was just a very small child, and somebody showed me a rubber band jumping from fingers to fingers. I was amazed, and I wanted to learn it. They showed me the trick, and I was caught by the magic bug from that point on. I still think the jumping rubber band is a great trick. Now, the way that I'm teaching it to you is the way that I do it. The original way is that you would take a rubber band and wrap it around your fingers like this, close your hand, open it, and it would jump. That's the way I was taught how to do it. That's the way it is in the book. I decided there had to be, a reason for this hand to come up. You see, in the original, this hand comes up and does something here, and then doesn't do anything. And then when you open your fingers, it jumps across, so it looks like you're doing something and then causing something to happen later. It doesn't look like magic. So I wanted it to look like magic. So here's the way I do it. And the secret, just so you know, is when you pull this out with this hand, it's around 2 fingers, you pull that out with this hand, you just put all of your fingers into that opening between those 2 strands. I start with my little finger, I wrap here, and those fingers just follow and go in. So all the fingers go between those 2 strands, then you let go. So now when you open, the band comes off of those fingers and ends up on these fingers. Really pretty simple to do. So all fingers go in there and it jumps like that. And you can do it the opposite direction too, like so. Like I said though, I needed a reason for that hand to be there. So here's how I do it. I grab the band here and I start stretching it up and down, just to display it. See, there's a rubber band wrapped around those 2 fingers. Well, on one of the down stretches, I put my little finger in, then I move up and all the other fingers go inside just like that. So down, fingers go in, and up. The fingers are now in. From the front, it's still just wrapped around 2 fingers. Then I'm going to let go of it, and the moment that it hits my finger like that, I'm going to open my fingers like this, and it will seem as though I snapped it through. So here's what it looks like from the front, wrapped around 2 fingers, you see? I give it a snap, and it goes right through. So now this hand has a reason to be there, the move isn't quite as obvious, and the motivation for it going through is the snapping. That can also be done in reverse from the bottom. I put my fingers in like that, and I snap it, and it goes up to the top. Okay, so that's the Stanley Collins jumping rubber band with my addition of snapping it through. That wasn't strictly taught in Tarbell. What was taught in Tarbell is doing it with another rubber band wrapped around the top like this. So all you have to do is wrap that other rubber band around the tips of your fingers, and guess what, folks? It's no more difficult to do it now than it was to begin with. As a matter of fact, just forget about that rubber band, do exactly what you did before, and it works exactly the same way. Now, if you just fooled yourself, that's okay. You're to be forgiven. I fooled myself when I first did that too. Somebody taught me to do it that way, and I just couldn't for the life of me figure it out. And then all of a sudden, I realized, hey, wait a second. Here's what's going on. It's actually pretty simple. When you see this, it's ridiculous. But look, the rubber band doesn't go through. It just goes around the ends. That's it. It just moves from here to there, So this rubber band never gets in the way, and that is the Stanley Collins jumping rubber band with the twisted tips at the top. Oh, one-handed. Thanks for reminding me. I did do that at the end, didn't I? This is also taught in Tarbell, by the way. You see, there are hidden gems in Tarbell. Lots of people, when they learn the jumping rubber band, they think that they invent this move themselves. No, it's been around for a long time. How to get the band to jump from the bottom back to the top one-handed? Simple. You put your thumb in the band like this, you put your fingers in, you let go. That's it. Now it's back. The Fonz. Okay, here, hold on to both ends of the string like that. You're going to stand right over here, okay? This is great because you're dressed for the act. It's fantastic. It's great, okay? So now, this is the important thing. Obviously, that is a solid chord. It's impossible to remove that key from the center of that chord, yes? And as long as you hold on to the ends, I can't take the key off of the ends, right? Makes perfect sense. The reason I'm using this is because the only way that Houdini was able to escape from those handcuffs, I'll tell you a little secret. He stole the key. When people didn't know that he stole the key. Now, how he was able to get it, well, that's the real secret, because that key was very secure, just like this one is. Like, I cannot take that key away from you without you knowing about it. Yes?
Sure.
Now, no matter how complicated I make this, like let's say I do this, and I flip this over here, and I put that down there, that would be no help whatsoever.
Nope.
Right? If you know anything at all about topological sciences, about physics, about the way the world works, no matter what I do, that key won't come off of that chord. Yeah? So here, let me do that. Like that, and like this. Is it still on there and it's still solid?
It's still on there.
Yeah?
Hold on. Before we go on.
Yeah?
I just want to say, this is the first time I've ever met you, so
Yeah.
I'm not in on anything.
Oh, good.
Works,
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, right? So again, that's, no, seriously. And then look, if I did that, that just makes it worse, right? It's just a knot. It just gets up big knotted, and it's impossible to get it off of there. And when I take the knot away, the key is still there. That's the important part, okay? Because I'm going to cover it up. Here. And that doesn't help at all, does it? It doesn't help you. It doesn't help me. Now, there's things that I could do under there, but there's really nothing physical that I could do under there that would remove the key. The only way to make this legitimate, though, is if we have something that represents Houdini that we can release from something else. So let's do this. Here. Let's use this piece of rope and some cards. What's your name?
Justin.
Justin. Yeah, Justin, come on up here.
Hey.
Tough guy, Justin. All right, fantastic. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Justin, here, take the piece of rope, hold it by the ends, kind of like we have our friend here holding onto those. Stand up a little bit closer like this. What we're going to do is I'm going to take out 3 cards, and these 3 cards will represent Houdini and 2 guards that will be making sure that he cannot escape. Justin, have you checked to make sure that that cord is a good, strong cord?
It's pretty sturdy.
Yep. Fonz, do you still have the key?
I think so.
Oh, you think so, but you're not sure. Here, thread that onto your rope. Let's take a look. Yep, still there.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. All right, good. All right. And Justin, have you made sure that the cord is strong and that the card cannot be removed from the cord unless you let go of the ends? Fantastic. Here, thread that onto your rope. Key still there?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Good. You don't have to look? You don't want to look?
I want to look. Can I look?
Why? Why on earth would you want to look?
Just to make sure.
No, it's still there. I guarantee you it's still there. Don't you trust me?
No.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yep. There. Now, the last card. All 3 cards get threaded onto the piece of rope. Houdini and 2 guards to make sure that he cannot escape. Everything has been examined. All I have to do is remove the key from this cord, bring the key over here, and release Houdini. Simple. I'm going to try to remove the key. I want you to see how I do it. Okay? You ready?
Yeah.
With both hands. Right there. Don't let go of the ends. I need a little more slack, yeah, that's good, But don't let go of the ends. Okay. Well, that didn't help at all. I'm just making it tougher on myself. Here, I'll tell you what. You are too suspicious. You're watching far too closely. There's no way I can remove that key.
All right.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Because maybe I can release Houdini over here. It'd be pretty easy. It'd be simple. Here, look. Make sure that the key is on there. Give it a tug yourself. Tug. Tug, right? And then hold the ends to make sure that there's no way that that key can come off of there. Because I can release Houdini over here without the key. I can do it. I know I can, right? All I have to do is tear him off. But that's cheating. Because I don't even know which one of those cards to tear off. I don't even know which one of those is Houdini and which two are the guards. Do you know?
I do not.
Do you remember what the names of the cards are?
2 of them.
2 of them. You remember 2 of them?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you all 3 of them.
Okay.
I don't know what the suits are. I've forgotten. I know there's a red ace there, there's a black king, and there's a joker. Okay? And I chose those specifically for this reason because I'm going to try to influence your choice.
Okay.
You see, Houdini was known as the king of cards. I said that at the very beginning. Right? He was also an ace at escaping, but he did like to joke around.
Okay.
Which one of those 3 cards would you like to represent Houdini? And I'll tell you right now, my friends know that I sometimes will change people's minds, but in this case, whichever one you choose is the one I'll use. Which one?
The ace.
The ace. Yeah? Just like Houdini did it one-handed. Oh, it's pretty cool, huh?
Pretty cool.
Here, check those out. Now, there's the ace. There it is, and all I have to do is tear it right off, just like that. It's that simple, and the ace has been released. The hard part is explaining why it's not torn. That's for you. You can take your seat, take the rope, take the cards, and then tell us later exactly how that worked. Have you figured it out yet? This routine is a combination of 2 things that occur in the book, back to back. One of them is the metal ring on string. The other is the patriotic rings on the string. Now, I've changed both of them. The methods are pretty much the same, but what I've done is I've changed the actual materials that you're using to make them a little bit more interesting. So the metal ring on string, what I've done is I've replaced that metal ring with a key. The first thing that you want to do is you want to go look, probably at an old antique store, or maybe even go online and find some reproduction old keys. You want to find 2 keys that are the same, that look like they might be unique. Like if I told you that this was the only key of its kind in the world, you might just believe me. But it's not. There's another one that's exactly the same as it. But it's kind of an unusual looking key, and that's the interesting part about it. So you get a pair of those matching keys. One of those goes into your pocket. Now I'm going to describe each thing separately, so let's just start with what you do with the key. First thing that you do with the key is you thread it onto a string. String's not gimmicked in any way, and the key's not gimmicked in any way. And this is held by the spectator, like that. And as they're holding the ends of it, you are going to act like you're trying to remove it. Now what you do when you try to remove it is that you loop the thread around, the string around, you pull it through the key like this. None of this stuff does anything, so don't worry about getting it right. You loop it under the key, and then you show that, nope, you've just made it worse. Okay? Now you're just going to undo that same looping and say, no, that doesn't really help at all. I've just made it worse. And so they're still left holding the key. So now you throw a cloth over it. And although I've tried to remove the handkerchief from every effect that I can, this one in particular, you can't do it. You've got to cover it up. Because what happens underneath the cloth is this. You secretly get the matching key into your hand, and then up underneath the cloth, you bring it against the string. I'm going to do it from this side so it's easier for you to see. You pull the string through the loop of the key like that, and then around the end of it, and then pull it tight. Now, you say, no, I'm still making it more complicated. I need to remove the handkerchief for just a second. And you take the handkerchief and the threaded key and move them both to the end and have the spectator let go for just a second, and they see this key hanging in place. That key has been placed on there with what we call a hitch. Now that hitch can either fall, and when you take the handkerchief away, you're taking this key away with it. You can make a stage turn and ditch that key in your pocket, and now all you're left with is a handkerchief. So at this point, the key is hanging on there like that, and it can either be hitched like that, or the hitch could go all the way up to the top like this. But to remove the key from the hitch, you can do it visibly. All you do is pull that loop down, and then the string comes right off. And that's how the key melts off. It's a switch underneath the handkerchief. Pretty easy to do. Okay, so that's the method for the metal ring on string. Now, the method for the patriotic rings on string is a pretty good method. The basic idea here in the book is that you have 3 different colored rings, a red, a white, and a blue, hence the title patriotic. Well, what I decided to do was to replace those paper rings with playing cards so that you would have 3 identifiable playing cards, an ace, a king, and a joker. Okay? Now, in this case, because my presentation has to do with Houdini, any one of those could represent Houdini. King of handcuffs, a joker, used to joke around. He was an ace magician and escape artist, so you could use any one of them. In the original presentation, you would take off all 3 of the rings as they were called for by somebody. Well, once you've done it one time, any more than that, it's not necessary to repeat it each and every time. Plus, the method, well, it's not all that great when you know what it is. And to do it multiple times, you're certainly going to be caught out. Here's the method. The method is you prepare these 3 paper rings in advance. So these cards, you tear the centers out, and then you fold each of them up. Now, each one of those has to be in a place where you can remember where it is. So I place the joker in my left pocket. Then I take the king and I place it in my right pocket. And then I take the ace and I place it in my right pants pocket. So it goes from the card of the lowest value to the card of the highest value as it makes an arc like this. Joker, king, ace. That's how I have them prepared. Because now it's going to seem like I have 3 cards just randomly selected from a deck of cards. But the secret is, all they can select are a joker, a king, and an ace from this deck. As long as you spread it properly, they take a card from the top third, they take a card from the middle, they take a card from the bottom, and they're going to get a joker, a king, and an ace. And it looks like it's completely random. And now what you're going to do is fold each one of these and tear the center out. So I'm just going to do it for one of them. It doesn't really matter which one, but let's destroy the joker. It's the easiest one to replace. And you're going to tear it out so it looks very similar to what you did. Well, what you do is always the same. You fold it in half, and then you fold it in quarters. And the card, if you use a bicycle card like I do, it already has marks where you're going to tear it. It's those 3 lines, those 3 white lines that go this way and that way. You just start right at those 3 white lines and just tear and arc slightly at the corner and finish at the 3 white lines right there. Toss that aside, and this torn out joker looks almost identical to the torn out joker that I did to begin with. Here, you can compare it yourself. It's virtually impossible to tell which one that I did. The holes are about the same size. So that's really the whole secret to it. I've already prepared over here the other 2 cards, the king and the ace with torn out centers. So now, when I've done all of that, I have a joker, a king, and an ace here, and I've got the matching ones torn out here. They get threaded onto this string, held by the spectator, covered with the handkerchief. The deck goes away so it's not suspected at all. It looks like it could be any random cards. If you want to, you can use completely random cards, but this just has kind of a nice style to it. At this point, you're going to ask the spectator, which one of those cards do you want to represent Houdini? And whichever one they pick, you have to get the duplicate. It's that simple. So if they happen to say that they want the ace, you say the ace. Well, that's great because Houdini makes sense. He was an ace magician and an escape artist. And all you've done is get the folded ace into your hand. And now you're going to reach up underneath the handkerchief and you're going to look for the ace. So whichever card matches the one that they named, you have the duplicate. You now tear quietly through that card, remove it, and fold it, and switch it, and bring out the duplicate. That's the method. It's that simple. You have a duplicate for each of the cards. You get rid of the folded and torn one, however you want to do it. What I usually do is I still in my hand by the end of it, and I'm showing this card, and I give it to them, and the trick is done, so I just take the string and the other two cards back, and as I put the string away, I get rid of the folded card. And that's it. That is the OK escape. Rob, take that piece of string. Make sure it's a good, strong piece of string. Take this pretzel. Do not eat it. Okay, whatever you do. Thread the string through any one of those holes in that pretzel that you want, any hole at all. And then hold on to both ends of the string. In fact, tie the ends of the string together into a tight knot, and then put it around your neck so you are styling. And you can show that off for the camera to see. All right? Perfect. Okay. now here's the important part. Let me clean this up. I want you to face front because remember how we did this, right? Okay. Yeah. This is how we.
I recall.
This is how we teach the tricks. Okay. But in this case, you won't have to close your eyes. You don't have to close your eyes. All you have to do is stand facing front. Everybody here will learn how the trick works. Rob will have no idea how it was done. Okay, that's how we do this in the Teach a Trick section of the show. I'm putting the knot on your side so you can check it. Yes? Yep, good. Hold on to the knot so there's no way that I can get to it.
Absolutely.
Okay? And here's the pretzel. It's still hooked on. Yep. All right. Whatever you do, don't turn around. Okay? That's the important part because I'm going to try to do some things with the pretzel and hopefully I will be able to do something with the pretzel. Oh, wait. I think maybe nope. Oh, wait. Nope. Sometimes magic sounds like breaking.
Oh, there. Hold it. Okay. Oh, this part. Okay.
So what you've just seen is a teach a trick. It's a joke, it's a gag, and it's a fun one. It's the way that I do a variation on what was originally called the penetrative cigar band. In Tarbell's time, lots of people were smoking cigars, and you could borrow a cigar band and do it. So I've changed it, I've updated it to a pretzel. You're going to find that kind of pretzel around parties all over the place. You would typically just need to have a duplicate cigar band to do it with a cigar, but that's generally speaking, not going to happen in most places in the world. So all you need is an extra duplicate pretzel, just like you saw, and you can get a really good gag out of it. Now, it's possible, if you want to play it seriously so nobody knows that you have an extra one, but I think this is a particularly good one to have fun with and get the audience on your side. The basic principle behind it, you need a duplicate object that can be destroyed while you remove the other one. That's why this one's so fun to do. There you go. Now, just so everybody's clear on this, you're all going to see how it works. And then later, you can do this for your friends. But Rob, you're not going to see how it works. Okay? You okay with that?
Yeah.
All right. Here's what's going to happen. I'm tying a knot in the center of the rope, and you're going to hold on to the ends.
Yes.
Okay? Now, I am going to make this knot come out of the rope without untying it. There's no way it's going to come through the ends. You know, here's how I know it's not going to come through the ends. Look, you can let go. Look, the knot's all the way down there. What I'm going to do is I am going to lock that knot in place like this, right? Right? So you don't have to worry about two ends or anything like that. That knot is locked in place, solidly locked in place, right?
Yes.
You could hold here, as a matter of fact, with one hand, just like that, right?
Yes.
And that knot cannot be taken out of that rope without untying everything.
Exactly.
Okay? All right. Here's what I need you to do. Hold on as tightly as you can in a fist, just like that. Look that direction and close your eyes. I'm trusting you to close your eyes. Do you have your eyes closed? Can you feel me messing around with the rope?
Yes.
Do you know what I'm doing?
Touching it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No, all I'm doing is I'm touching the rope and snapping it and stuff like this. Because it's impossible for that knot to come out of there without untying all of these things, right? And yet that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that knot out of the rope without untying it. Now, once more, I just want you to look back at the rope and make sure that the knot is still there. Yes?
Yes.
Nothing's changed?
No.
Look that way and close your eyes. Do you have your eyes closed?
Yes.
Fantastic, because I am going to mess around with the rope again, and I'm going to take that knot out of the rope without untying it. Can you feel me messing around with the rope?
Yes.
Yes? Do you know what I'm doing?
Touching it.
Touching it. That's exactly right. I'm tugging a little bit, but you still have the ends, yes?
I got it.
Right? All right, fantastic. Just whenever you want, I want you to open your eyes and look at me and the knot coming out of the rope.
Oh, well.
And then you can take this knot and that rope to your seat and figure it out. So here's another one of those tricks that plays a lot more like a gag. You know, it's called the vanishing ring on string. It's basically, you know, the vanishing knot on the cord that's been tied into a bunch of knots at the top. So you saw the way that I treat it. It's exposed. Everybody gets to see how to do it. But there's that extra added little bit of business. Now, this isn't in the original. This is what I've added to it, where you give the spectator the knot that you've removed from the rope. And about the only thing you have to learn is how to make one of those. It's actually pretty easy, but just in case you're wondering, what you do is you just take a piece of rope and you tie a relatively loose knot. Now, you want this to be, you know, a pretty reasonable kind of a size, so something that you can hold easily in your hand that will fit into your pocket, and you just make that knot like that. You should have with you, at all times, always be prepared with a glue gun ready to affix anything. And you're just going to lift up the ear of the knot on one side and put a little bit of glue right there, and then squeeze that ear down on top of it. Then you're going to flip the knot over and lift up the other ear on the other side and squeeze the glue down there and push that down on top of it like this. You should always have very, very sharp scissors. These are fabric scissors. They are exceptionally sharp. They can cut through the rope very quickly and easily, and they do. So be careful with these. Do not cut yourself because they're exceptionally sharp. Now, once you've done that, it's basically in place, but what you're going to do is you're going to take the glue gun, and as you gently squeeze out a little bit of the glue, you're going to go around the ends so that you seal them up. What's nice about the way that hot glue dries is it looks a lot like just rope, you know? It has that same kind of dull finish to it, so it doesn't look like there's been any preparation. You can leave the glue exposed, and the whole thing looks really, really nice. Now, it doesn't have to last for very long. You just don't want it to unravel in your pocket. You're going to also use your fingers to smooth it, but you'll notice that I'm waiting. I'm waiting until the glue is not hot, and then I smooth it with my fingers. Do not try to do this with really hot glue. you will burn yourself. It will be no fun. But once it sets up a little bit, you just smooth it like that. That gives you that little fake knot. That you carry around in your pocket. And you saw exactly how I do it in the performance. Very simple. All the knots are tied at the top, above the one at the bottom. You want the bottom one to look about the same size. They have their eyes closed, head turned away. You just move it up to the top and bring this out. Hand it to them. You got yourself a great gag. Cool, we just saw Keller's cut and restored string. And if you've never seen it before, honestly, you were probably fooled by it. Well, that's because it's nothing like what you think it is. And when I first read it, I thought, okay, this is pretty hokey. This is not going to play at all. Well, then I just took it out and I tested it. And honestly, it's really, really good. It's very, very effective. It's very, very deceptive. Nobody sees it coming so quickly. And the only problem with it is that it's totally bogus. It cannot be examined. In fact, here is the piece of string that I apparently restored. If someone were to take this piece of string, the first thing they would do is pull on it. That's what I'm going to do. It cannot be examined. And that's because those two ends that were restored, those are waxed ends. You put them together, you roll them like that, they stick together, and now it looks like it's restored. Okay, so let's go into making it, because I think you might actually get something out of this. Don't disregard it. It's a pretty cool idea. And also I'm going to give you a tip on magician's wax. Now, magician's wax used to be a really common thing that a lot of people used before the invention of double-stick tape. Nowadays, double-stick tape does a lot of different things. Magician's wax is still a popular thing to use for like card-on sealing and a few other things like that. Problem with most magician's wax, if you purchase it from any magic shop, if you can still find it, is that it's kind of yellow in color. It's kind of dirty. It leaves residue on all kinds of things. Well, I found a perfect substitute for it, and all you have to do is go to a big craft store that is named after a guy named Mike, but they use his full name, and you ask them for this stuff. They may not even know that they carry it. It's called stick-um. It's candle adhesive. Why would you want sticky candles? Okay, it's made so that you can put it on the bottom of a candle and put it into a candle holder and it will stay there. I know most of you just drip wax into the candle holder and stick the candle there, but at your fancy fine dining things, you never light the candles, you just stick them so they stay upright. Well, that's what I've heard. But all this is, when you open up your tin of this, is a really nice, clean, milky white wax substance that is really easy to get off a little bit of it and has a really nice stickiness to it. See? Sticky, sticky stuff. Okay, so you're going to take a piece of string for this, and you're going to take that sticky stuff and you're going to roll it around near the end of a piece of string so you get it all waxed up, nice and sticky like this. Then you take some really sharp fabric scissors and you're going to cut at an angle, not straight across, but you're going to cut at an angle so that the end of the string that is waxed gets smaller, tapers toward the end. Then you take that tapering end and you put a little bit more wax on it and see how you can get it to come down to a really nice little point, just like that. That's what you're looking for, a little waxed end that's tapered to a point. So now you're going to go not very far. You don't want a really long piece of string. Okay, you want a short piece of string. I would say about, say a foot to 16 inches long, half a meter for anybody out there using that system. So there you go. And now you're going to do the same thing. You're going to wax all around the string near the end. Get it nice and sticky, just like that. And then you're going to taper off the end so that it tapers to a point. And then you're going to put a little bit more wax on that tapered end. That's going to be your specially prepared string for the Keller's cut and restored string effect. Okay, cleaning up my fingers, getting all that wax off of there. Now that's a lot of preparation for a cute little throwaway trick, but honestly, I don't think you could get anything quite this pure using any other method. That's why I don't think you should disregard it, because it really just looks fantastic. So when you bring out the string, you can show it, really normal. You can't have it inspected because it's got waxy ends. You can't grab the ends because they're a little waxy. But what you can do is to hold the string like this and just have somebody cut it right in half. Now, just like you saw in the presentation, they just chop right through it, and I'm left holding two completely separate pieces of string. Now, what's cool about it is that since I held it near the ends are now closer to my fingers, and those ends have wax on them. So without turning the string upside down, effectively, that's what we've done. We've turned it inside out. The ends are now in the middle, and the cut middle is now down there where the ends should be. So they cut through it. You've got two separate pieces, and then here's the whole method, just like I showed you. All you're going to do is pull this end down into your fingers, lay that end over it so that one taper goes over the other taper, like this. You give it a little rub so that it becomes the same size as a regular piece of string. But while you're doing that, you're going to distract everybody's attention by tying a knot in the string, like so, and then untying the knot. You just go right back in the way that you came in before, and then as the knot unties, you let go of the string, and it restores, and you just don't pull it. You just show a restored piece of string and throw it away. That's pretty cool. This is actually called the two-string trick. And do you know why?
I do not.
Think about it.
There are two strings.
Good. Okay. Oh, okay, yes. And because it's a two-string trick, how many strings are there? You're way ahead of me. Okay, that's good. Now, the two strings have to be approximately the same size, not exactly the same size. This one is more the same size than the other one, but it doesn't matter as long as they're about the same size. Now, I want you to pinch the two strings right there and hold on to them very tightly. Okay, see this, and curl your fingers in like that. That's good. So, see? There. See, everybody can see now. Fingers aren't in the way. That's a technique. Look, here's the bunny's ears. Keep pinchy. Okay, here's the bunny's ears up here at the top, and here are his legs, or his feet down here at the bottom of his long and deformed legs. So here's the sad, sick, deformed little bunny, and he's struggling to get away from you, but he can't get away because you're choking the life out of him. Okay, so now, just before, and look, he's kicking and thrashing, and just before the bunny dies, just before he dies,
Tickling his tummy.
you're going to, just before he does. There. You're going to count to 3, you're going to let go of his ears, and the two strings will join together into one string. Ready? 1, 2, 3, let go. 1, 2, 3.
What?
There you go. Okay, well, now that you've learned how to prepare something for the Keller's cut and restored chord, and you've just seen another version of it where you can have it handed out, I'll explain all that's going into this particular version of it. In Tarbell, this is called the comedy, Germain's comedy cut or comedy version. Wait, it's called something about Germain and something about comedy. It doesn't really matter that much because I've changed almost everything about it anyway. In fact, I've removed a whole bunch of the phases of it. In Tarbell, you have a loop of cord that's tied, and then you cut it, and then you tie it on that end, and then you cut off this end, and then you tie it again, and then you cut off something, and then it's a loop of cord, and then you untie it, and now it's a cord. Believe me, that's exactly how it reads. So we've taken away all of that excess other stuff, and we're basically down to a really direct, probably the best, the most direct, cut and restored chord that can be handed out at the end. Okay, you need a particular kind of string, and it's what I've been using the whole time. So I'm going to give up a really big secret right now. This isn't a secret from this section of Tarbell. This piece of string is not like any other piece of yarn or most normal strings that you'll find, most normal chords. Most chords that you find will have 3 strands that are twisted around one another, an odd number of strands. This chord has 4 strands, an even number. Well, how do you get yourself a 4-stranded chord like this? This is known as cable cord. It's used in upholstery. If you look at the couch that you're sitting on, or maybe some of the pillows that have edging around them, the stuff that is inside that edging that gives it the thickness is this stuff, cable cord. And it comes in all kinds of sizes. This is one of the smaller ones, so it looks like just a piece of string. But why is it important that it has an even number of strands? Here's why. We're using a relatively modern technique where we're going to peel the strands apart. All you do is you reverse the twist of the strands. You see? So you twist in the opposite direction, and that causes those strands to straighten out. You can now split so that you have 2 strands in each hand, like so. If you pull those 2 strands to one side, 2 strands to the other side, and then hold basically their tips, and then let them naturally wrap around one another, you'll see that they appear to be ends. But they're not ends, they're the middle. And that middle crosses over itself and then makes what appears to be ends. You can only do this with an even-stranded chord, otherwise it wouldn't look right. If I pull, they go back together, and they once again wrap around one another, joining back into a solid string. Okay? So perhaps I could demonstrate that more easily with a bigger, thicker piece of cable cord. Well, here's one now. This looks like a piece of rope, but it's not again. A piece of rope would have 3 strands. This is cable cord. One of the thickest that you can get pretty easily if you go into any fabric store and ask for the upholstery section for cable cord, you can find this thickness. And it's pretty nice because all you have to do is just grab 2 strands with one hand, 2 strands with the other hand, and give them a little pull. They will almost automatically start wrapping around one another, and then you continue pulling. And you can do this for, the whole length. You don't want to. You want to do it for a few inches. And look at this. See that cross right there in the center? If you just put your fingers over it like that, it really looks like you have 2 pieces of rope or 2 pieces of string if you do it with that. And when you pull, they'll wrap back in, and it's solid. We'll get back to the large size in just a second. But right now, let's do some more work with the string to show you the entire version of this. You're once again going to need wax. You could also use glue for this, but since we have the wax handy, that's what we're using. And in this case, all you're going to do is you're going to taper the ends of your string. You're going to take your wax. You're going to wax the ends together. And this is very similar to the way that you tapered and waxed the ends in the Keller, but in this case, you don't have to quite worry about them being waxed thoroughly, because you can take all of the time that you want to join them together. And again, if you want to do this all the time, You can glue these ends together, but in this case, you're just going to get them waxed together kind of nicely, smooth them out as much as you can. So all you're going to do is you're going to press them together and you're going to roll them together like you did for the Keller. You don't have to worry about it being quite as perfect. You just need to get that joined so that it can't be seen that easily. That's good enough for us for explanation purposes. I would take a little bit more time and get rid of some of those ends, but let's just move along for the explanation. So basically when you do that, you'll have an endless loop, and you have to go opposite those waxed ends, and that's when you do that special preparation where you pull 2 strands to one side, 2 strands to the other side. You let them start naturally wrapping around one another and forming new ends. Now, don't worry too much about all of the twists that's happening down here, but once you get those 2 new ends, you want to straighten out the loop as much as you can and make sure those ends look pretty good, okay? So basically, we get into that position, but those ends are actually crossed over in the middle. Now, I'm going to tie a knot in here, but it's important that this is not a real knot because I need to be able to untie it pretty quickly, but I need to disguise those ends when I bring this string out. And there needs to be a reason why the ends are together, so we tie a knot. So basically, I'm just going to be making a loop like this, and I'm sticking the 2 strands through the loop and then pulling the loop tight, and that makes a fake knot with 2 ends coming out of it. If I were to pull this, that knot would just come right out, which is eventually what I'm going to do. But now I can bring out a string, and it looks pretty normal. I don't need the rest of this stuff for right now. We do need the scissors. So I can bring out a string, and it looks kind of okay that the ends of the string are tied together. So I'm going to hold on to the ends, and I'm going to have somebody cut the middle, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. We're going to cut the middle out, not through the middle. Remember, that's waxed together, so if we cut it out like this, and you should use nice sharp scissors for this, then we don't have to worry about any evidence being here. But now we have 2 separate ends. So now I'm going to act like I untie this knot. So I just reach up as though I'm untying, but all I'm doing is I'm just pulling it, and it just corrects the knot. So I do that, and it looks like I untie it. Then I show the 2 ends up here. Now I'm going to do a false count. I'm going to bring one end up on this side and one end up on this side. So I have a single, a pair, and a single. And I'm going to count 1 end, and then this end's going to go back and it's going to be clipped by those fingers as I take these 2 ends away, 2, like that. So that's the switch. So here's the way it looks. There's 1 end, 2 ends. That's the switch. It looks like I took another one. And then I take back that one that I clipped, as I say 3, and then the last one is 4, like that. Now, all I have to do is drop the 2 ends that are loose ends and ask the spectator to pinch these ends together. Now, if you look at that, if you glance at it, it doesn't look unusual. It just looks like the strings are twisted, crossed over one another. But they could be separate strings. So I just have them pinch right there. So now a spectator is holding on to these 2 strings. And that's when I go into my presentation where I talk about the bunny's ears, the bunny's feet, you know, all that kind of stuff, his struggle, struggle, struggle. I like to get them laughing because then they're having a lot of fun with this. And then I just take one of the ends, I wrap it around like this, and as soon as I pull it, like that, it's going to pull out of their hands. I'm holding on to the other one. It pulls out of their hands, and I just keep pulling. Those go into the center. I can show it. I give it a little brush like this to smooth out any rough spots, and that is a cut and restored string where they can examine everything. Have you figured out how the knot got out of the rope? Seriously?
My eyes were closed.
Your eyes were closed. Yeah. So that's a fine excuse. I'm a magician. Why am I untying things? I don't understand why I'm taking all the time to actually untie stuff. It's just knots, right?
Yeah.
Right? I should be able to just do that and they'd be gone. So anyway, look, Wasting everybody's time. Here's a piece of rope. There's the two ends up there at the top. Here's a pair of scissors. Now, in a moment, I'm going to give you the scissors. I want you to grab onto the ends of the scissors, and then you're going to cut the rope, okay? So you take this end, not the sharp end. I'll give you this end.
Now.
Not the sharp, no, not the, I still have more jokes to do.
Okay.
You take this end,
Grab that end.
not the sharp end, and cut the rope, okay? In the middle, there. The middle is there, okay? These are the scissors. That's the middle. Those are the ends. These are my fingers. Now that you're pissed. The pink wiggly stuff is me. The white stuff is the rope. Just cut right there in the center.
Right here.
And we end up with two even pieces. Exactly the same length. One exactly the same as... Well, this one is more the same than that one. You know how it goes, right? All right, Rob, here, just trim that off. Trim that right off of there. Fantastic. Yeah, all the way through. Yeah, good. Are you left-handed?
I use the both.
Both? Yeah, well, okay, all right, that's fine, because the scissors are upside down. I was just wondering. No, it's all right, it's all right. Oh, hey, look, Rob, I got a short one, too. No, you're Rob. What was it? Justin, look, Justin, I got a short one, too. Well, mine's got an afro. Hey, have you heard this joke? A rope walks into a bar, and the bartender says, "We don't serve rope here." And he goes, "Outside." And he ties himself into a knot like this, walks back into the bar. "I want a drink." And the bartender says, "Hey, aren't you that same piece of rope that was in here a second ago?" And he says, "No, I'm afraid not." So it happened in real life. Look, here, now the ropes are exactly the same. Well, that one's also got a little bit of a hairstyle going on there. Why don't you trim that right off? Yeah, fantastic. Now they're exactly the same, okay? See? Same here, same there. We can do the two rope trick with the ropes that are exactly the same. What? Wait a second. Okay, trim that off. Trim that off of there. It's fantastic. There's a little more for you. Okay? Now they're exactly the same. We can do the rope trick with the two ropes that are exact. Okay, I'll tell you what. All we wanted to do was where the ropes go back together. So let's just start over at the beginning with one piece of rope. And Rob, thanks very much. Okay, now we get into some of my favorite stuff, and I'm going to show you the very, very basic version of cut and restored rope. It's slightly different from tarbell. I'll kind of explain to you what is different. But this is hard for me to do this because I really love cut and restored rope tricks, and I've got to hold off on showing you some of the awesome, awesome stuff. Rope magic is all throughout the entire tarbell series. Right now, we're just getting our feet wet with one that's really, really simple to do. So you need to find yourself some good rope. You can use magician's rope for this, or you can just go to any hardware store and find boat rope, which is that's what this stuff is. It's for boating. Comes in all kinds of cool different colors too, and you want to get a piece that is just a little bit longer than the span of your arms. So what I do is I stretch it out as far as I can, then I pull a little bit more off of it like that, and then I cut it. Again, real sharp scissors. You want to be able to cut it very quickly. Now, here's an important thing with any rope that you have. If it has a core on the inside, you need to take that core out of it. It'll make it easier to cut. It'll make the rope easier to handle. So in this case, there is a paper core on the inside. Well, it's not really paper. It's, I don't know, some other synthetic material. But you get the idea. You take that core out, and here's how you do it. You just grab it. You strip the rest of the rope down like this until the rope binds up, and then you move to the part where it's bound up, and you push that all the way down the rest of the rope like this. Then you continue. If it binds up again, you push that all the way down the rest of the rope, and you give it another pull. Now, usually in a piece this long, it only takes a couple of seconds to strip that core out. But immediately, the rope is much softer, much more pliable, much easier to work with. Okay. That's it for your preparation. So here's your piece of rope. You need your sharp scissors. Now you just have to learn one simple move. And the simple move is how you can apparently cut through the middle of a piece of rope when actually cutting close to the end. Here's the move. You're holding on to two pieces of rope like this. You put them together in your left hand like that. You stroke the rope down to the center like this. And then as you approach the ends of the rope, you shift the middle so that it's laying over your hand, and you can grab right about here, close to this end of the rope, pull that through and up, and it looks like you've pulled the middle up. Now, I'm going to do it full speed for you. You stroke down the rope, grab the middle, and pull it up like this. You see, even from the side or from behind, you can't tell that you're not pulling the middle of the rope up. So here it is, slow, down to the middle, shift to this position, grab, pull through, and it's in place. And that's exposed. And now I'm going to show it to you as though I was doing it for somebody. I hand them the scissors. I pull down through the rope. I find the middle. I bring the middle up like this, and we're ready to cut it. Now, I add one little thing to that, and that is that I don't double it over and hold it in one hand in a fist like this. So here's a nice touch that I think you'll like. When I stroke down to the middle of the rope like this, I come up, I pull up, and I continue to pull over to the side like that. Okay? So that I'm displaying where they need to cut. If you watch it, it looks like this. I'll show you the action it simulates, and that is as though you bring this up and do that, right? So it looks like you're bringing the middle of the rope up and exposing it for them to see it here. What you're actually doing is that move and pulling it out like that. It's almost identical. There's really no way that they can tell the difference. So essentially, when they cut right there, and I use the ends to gesture, cut right there. When they cut right there, I will still be holding this, and I can show that that's where they cut it, and I can let the end that's closest to my thumb fall out and drop this, and it looks like they've cut the middle. Okay? So now I have a short piece from the end of the rope wrapped over it. But my attention is focused on the bottom ends. I say, you've cut exactly in the middle. We have two pieces of rope exactly the same length. Now, up here, you see, up above my head, I'm transferring the rope over and then stroking it down here to show those two ends. They will always be one longer than the other one because of the move that you did. So now I'm going to put those ends into my hand like this, so I even up 3 of the ends, and I have one long end, and I ask them to trim that off. This is a little bit of comedy that's really easy to add to any of your cut and restored rope routines. When they trim off that extra long end, you can now show that the ropes are the same length just by grabbing these 2 real ends here, not the one that's hitched up. You just grab the 2 real ends and pull them off to the side like that, and the ropes are the same length. Now, if you let one of them fall down, the moment that it falls down, you just give a little tug to the other one. Now, it doesn't have to be quite as pronounced as what I just did there, because however long you tug this one, you'll have twice the distance happen here. One is pulled down, the other one goes up. So you only have to pull one about 3 inches to get 6 inches of difference. So you show that they're the same, you drop one, and I've just pulled the other one just a little bit, so that when I come back here, there's now that much difference. So I do it again. I bring it back up here. I say to the person, trim that off. They trim it off. I show again that the ropes are exactly the same length. I drop it again. And again, the ropes are not the same length. It's a great bit of business. Now, I only do it a couple of times because the third time we're going to restore it. And here's the way I like to restore the rope. It's the easiest way to restore a piece of rope that there is. And all you have to do is you're holding on like this. All you have to do is bring one end up, touch it to another end, and let go of everything else. That's it. That's the whole thing. It's so easy to do. I'm going to do it again for you, because a lot of people try to do this move and they make it really complicated, but there's absolutely no work to it at all. You're showing that they're different lengths. Let me get them about where they would be, like this. You're going to drop one end. You're going to touch the other end up like this. You're going to grab it, and you're going to drop everything else. And it restores. It's that simple to do. Now, you want to do that smoothly. So you practice it slowly a few times like I've just shown you. But when you do it in full speed, it really, really looks deceptive. So here's 2 ropes. We could keep cutting those all day, but eventually we'd reach the end of our ropes. So let's just restore it to one long piece. And all you're doing is holding that short piece against the end like this and showing the ends. Now, when we do more rope stuff, that extra piece will become very important because you can use it in lots of different ways. But just to be complete, let me show you the way that Tarbell has you restore a piece of rope. It's not a bad way. This is the way I used to do it for a long time. Basically, you're in the same position, but all you're going to do is tie these ends together. So you tie these ends together to make a knot. It looks like you're tying the 2 ropes together and there's a knot. And now you're just going to bunch all of that up in your hand like this, and then the knot will disappear. Well, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to disappear. So you do that once, and now the second time, you grab the knot, you act like you put it into your hand, but you slide it down the rope. See, that knot's not really the ends tied together, it's just separate. As you bunch everything up, you slide it off, pick up the scissors and wave them. When you put the scissors back down or put them away, you drop the knot either behind the table, in your pocket, someplace like that, and now you can restore the rope. Okay? So that sliding knot, we're also going to use that in a couple of different ways, and I might show you some different techniques that I use with that when we get to rope stuff in the next book.